Hey, how's it going? How about we run through some on-floor stuff, some on-ground stuff? Gary Gray calls it on-ground function. Why don't we just do some stuff on the floor and kind of maybe put some twists to it, literally, that perhaps you've seen or done and it just will help confirm things that you're already doing, or perhaps it'll show you some variations that you can then take, make it your own, tweak it, do whatever you want to with it. The most important thing is that this is your stuff. This isn't my stuff. This isn't copywritten. Just take it and have fun with it, utilize it, and then experiment with different ways that you can manipulate the body and move the body. If you don't have some education, you're going to want to get some education on why some of these things are going to work, and go at it and have fun. All right, let's do this. First off, realize that to everything there's always a progression-regression scheme. So a lot of times I'm not showing you progression-regression schemes, but there always is one. One of the things that we can do with on-ground function, and this is from a prone position, we'll start with a prone kind of position, is we can start hands and knees. So we don't have to be in a full plank position yet. We can start hands and knees. What we can do is utilize all three planes of motion. So that's something that'll be extremely important because that has impact on the different aspects of the body. So when we're in a plank position, we're obviously going to work what people call the core, or the more central part of the body, but it also directly affects the shoulder girdle, the shoulder complex. It affects down and through the arms and wrists. It affects the cervical spine. It also affects the hips, especially when we're in these positions. So it's not just a core workout, it's a total body workout. And so these are things that we can utilize to help increase tissue mobility and also increase stability. Because remember, we get stability through mobility. The motion is what creates stability, not staticness. All right, so quick and simple things we can do is we can start in a position of all fours, and it's looking at shoulder girdle complex and hip complex and thoracic spine, cervical spine. So we can move simply back, and this is something that I'm sure a lot of people have done, back and then forward, okay? Back and then forward. And all we're doing here is we're creating shoulder flexion, but we're driving it from the pelvis and trunk up instead of the hands, which we typically do this. We're driving it from a different aspect. So as we go back, we're going to hip flexion and then hip extension. So we're getting hip extension, hip flexion, shoulder extension. So those are different variances that we can utilize. You can do the same things, and we'll show it from the plank position. But we can also add in some frontal plane motion. So we can go more on using the hips as the driver, is we can go out to the sides. We can go out to the sides, and we can come up here. Out to the side, and then up. Out to the side, and in. Or you can stay in one position and move from side to side. Because as you can see, as I move from side to side, I'm getting different effects of the pelvis, different effects of my spine, and different effects of my shoulder girdle. Now the range of motion, or the depth of motion, the amplitude of motion is all dependent upon your client. So always take that into consideration. I'm showing you where I can go, but that doesn't mean your client can go there. They may be able to only go here. They may not be able to be hands on the floor. They may have to be up on something. And then again, it depends on if they can even be on their knees. So realize you can do this from a standing position. You can do this bent over. You can do this holding onto a tree, onto a bench. So you can be kneeling, bent over. So there's various ways. You take it and make it yours. You make it work for your client. Okay? We can do rotations. So we can have either your hands where we're turning the trunk, coming in this way, and then coming up, and turning the trunk, and coming up, and turning the trunk. So we're getting rotation, which is now really good for the thoracic spine especially, or we can actually do the thread the needle, where we're coming across this way, and then back up, and then across this way, and back up, because this is creating different motions through the spine. So I'm actually having some flexion and lateral flexion with opposite side rotation, which is a type 1 motion for the thoracic spine. So I can come through, and then I can come up, so I can do a one-arm version, which not everyone's going to be able to do, or I can come across, hand on the ground, and then come up back onto the ground and dip the other side. So hand on the ground, dip. So I'm taking the right side of my pelvis and dipping it down towards the left versus going straight down, or versus going down in a lateral motion. Okay, so we have those different variations. Now we can also do the same thing in a plank position, hands and feet. So I can go into shoulder flexion, hip flexion, which is great for kind of lengthening the posterior aspect or the superficial back line this way, and then forward. So I'm getting shoulder flexion, hip extension, or shoulder extension, hip extension, sorry, and then shoulder flexion, hip flexion, as well as dorsiflexion. So it's just back and forward. Speed of motion depends upon the client's ability. Now as I speed up the motion and I get my mass moving, I have more momentum, I now have to decelerate. So as I do that, it puts more stress through the core for the abdominals to decelerate, through the shoulder girdle for the scapula stabilizers and parascapula stabilizers to actually decelerate that motion. So things to think about, and can be very good and very challenging as you want to progress. We can go from side to side, so I can have more of a shifting motion from side to side. And all of these things I can change the width. So I can change hand positions, I can go close, I can go wide, internal, external, wide, close, I can stagger. So remember all of those manipulations. There's too many to show in a 6-7 minute video. So I can go side to side. So I can go down, I can add in some push-ups, or I can do one shoulder. So I'm getting a little bit of retraction, elevation. So I'm just creating a little bit different motions. Well, that goes here. And then we can dip down, and then up and out, and down, and up and out, down, up and out, down, up and out. So all we're doing is taking different motions, making the body go through them, and it affects the cervical spine, thoracic, shoulder girdles, hips, all the way down into the ankles. Okay? So here, up, here, up, here, up, side, side, side to side, side to side, side to side, side, and then down, and up, and down, 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 up, down, up. Those can be awesome workouts. I should say warm-ups. It is a workout, but it's a great warm-up for the body. And then of course we can add in over. How you utilize your head can affect your thoracic spine and cervical spine. So if I leave my head still, I'm getting different cervical spine motions. So as I rotate my body to the right and my head stays in that position, I get left rotation of my cervical spine. I can affect lateral flexion, all those. But it also affects how the thoracic spine moves, because they're moving differently. So you're getting different motions down through the spine. So go play with those. Have some fun, utilize them, feel how they work, and what you realize is that you're also getting stretching, mobilization, stabilization, all through those exercises. You guys have fun with that. I'm gonna go work out.